A lot of questions still there. That's about it for us tonight. Tune in every evening at 8 to the show that is the sworn enemy of lying, pomposity, smugness, and groupthink. DVR it if you understand how those work. I don't. Good night from Washington. Sean Hannity up next from New York City. Hey, Sean.
Hey, Tucker. Thanks. Great show. Welcome to Hannity. This is a Fox News alert. Alabama Republican U.S. Senate candidate Judge Roy Moore is tonight vehemently denying a Washington Post report where a now adult woman accuses him of sexual misconduct from when she was 14 years old. These allegations date back to 1979. 38 years ago when Moore was 32 years old. Also, 3 other women are also telling the Washington Post that during that same time period, Moore pursued them while they were 16, 17, and 18 years old. We have invited Judge Moore and the women accusing him on the show tonight. Plus, liberal comedian Louis C.K., he is under fire over sexual misconduct allegations coming from 5 women that surfaced in an explosive New York Times report. Louis C.K.'s publicist declined to comment on the report to the paper. We'll break it all down in tonight's breaking news opening monologue. All right, tonight, before we explain the allegations against Judge Roy Moore and Louis C.K., I want to be crystal clear. And I said this repeatedly on my radio show today, but people on the left are trying to take out of context. When I spoke about this for nearly 2 hours today, Geraldo was one of my witnesses. If what people are accused of is true, it is beyond reprehensible, beyond disgusting, beyond shameful. And in the case of Judge Moore, if it's true, he should step aside and leave the Senate race. Everyone would agree. Everybody. A 32-year-old man pursuing a 14-year-old girl is disgusting. That is something we should all agree on. This should transcend politics. However, everyone also has the right to defend their name. Our goal on this show is always to find the truth. Here are the allegations tonight. A woman is alleging to the Washington Post that back in 1979, when she was 14 years old, she had a sexual encounter, actually 2 of them, with then 32-year-old Roy Moore. On one occasion, the woman alleges that Moore kissed her. And during another, she says that Moore allegedly, inappropriately touched her and guided her hand to touch him. Now, although she claimed no other sexual conduct took place, she described the incident to the Washington Post by stating, quote, "Well, I wanted it over with. I wanted out. Just get this over with. Whatever this is, just get it over." Now, the woman then says that she asked Moore to take her home, which he did. 3 other women are also accusing Moore of sexual misconduct back to the 1970s while they were teenagers, ranging in age from 16 to 18 years old. The women are alleging that Moore pursued romantic relationships with them, and one allegation involved kissing. Judge Moore tonight is adamantly denying these allegations against him. He told the Washington Post, quote, "These allegations are completely false, and they are a desperate political attack by the National Democratic Party and the Washington Post on this campaign." In a separate statement, Moore said the Washington Post has already endorsed the judge's opponent, and for months they have engaged in a systematic campaign to distort the truth about the judge's record and career and derail his campaign. In fact, just 2 days ago, the Foundation for Moral Law sent a retraction demand to the Post for the false stories they wrote about the judge's work and compensation. But apparently there is no end to what the Post will allege, and continues. This garbage is the very definition of fake news and intentional defamation. Tonight, Judge Moore also tweeted, "The Obama, Clinton machines, liberal media lapdogs just launched the most vicious and nasty round of attacks against me I have ever faced. We are in the midst of a spiritual battle with those who want to silence our message. The forces of evil will lie, cheat, steal, even inflict physical harm if they believe it will silence and shut up Christians, conservatives like you and me. Now, I believe you and I have a duty to stand up and fight back against the forces of evil, waging an all-out war on our conservative values. Our nation is at a crossroads right now, both spiritually and politically. Our children and grandchildren's futures are on the line, so rest assured, I will never give up the fight." Now, these are very serious allegations. Of course, they have to be investigated to the fullest extent. And we're finding out almost every single day now, sexual misconduct, sexual abuse. It's a widespread problem in this country. It is morally repugnant. It has no place in our society. Here's the thing. In any of these cases, it is sometimes you have to look at the truth here. How do we ascertain what happened 38 years ago? I'm a father of a daughter. I'm a brother to sisters. It's scary when you hear about these predators. And with these allegations against Judge Moore, This happened nearly 40 years ago, 38 years ago. And at the same time, and this is a very delicate question, but we have to bring it up. Do some women wait because they are too scared, too upset, too traumatized to come forward? As I said on my radio show today, of course they're afraid. I can understand that. We can all understand why no one would want to come forward and speak about such trauma. On the other hand, we have to pursue truth, which at times could be very difficult. It's like threading a needle. It's a razor's edge. If, in this case, let's say, the allegations turned out to be not true, where would Judge Moore go to get his good name back before an election, I believe, on December 12th? The bottom line is this should be a nonpartisan issue. We should all be for civil rights, and we should be for a civil society. Petty politics should be put aside. I want to give you a quick history lesson, and I learned something very profound early in my career. I was a local radio host back in Atlanta, Georgia. And remember Richard Jewell? First they thought he was the hero. And then I was on the radio the morning that the Atlanta Journal-Constitution said that Richard Jewell, who we thought was a hero, fit the profile of the lone bomber in the 1996 Olympics case because Jewell lived with his mother. I didn't know it at the time. Richard Jewell was actually listening to my radio show when I said, wait a minute, just because he lives with his mother doesn't mean he's a bomber. And I said it on the air at the time, that just because you live with your mother doesn't make you a bomber. Many people, though, were quick to rush to judgment. Back in 1997, I had the chance to interview Jewell. I didn't know he was listening to my radio show at the time when we did Hannity and Combs. And he said at the time that the reason he gave me one of the first interviews is because I was the only one in the media that didn't rush to judgment. Incredible lesson. Watch this. Richard Jewell, 33, a former law enforcement officer, fits the profile of the lone bomber. This profile generally includes a frustrated white man who is a former police officer, a member of the military or police wannabe who seeks to become a hero. You see that in the newspaper. What do you think?
Well, you know, it wasn't me. You know, I'd like to know where they got their profile from. Well, you know, several parts of that, you know, police wannabe. In the state of Georgia, I am a certified peace officer. I'm just not currently working for a police department. This case in my life in 1996, it changed my life because it made me realize you cannot rush to judgment. Let's look at examples where many of my so-called colleagues in the media and other people rush to judgment. Look at the Duke lacrosse case, for example. I didn't rush to judgment. College students had their lives ruined when they were, it turns out, falsely accused of rape. Everyone in the media, everyone on the left, they rushed to judgment. They were convicting these kids before the truth ever came out. No benefit of the reasonable doubt, no presumption of innocence. And in fact, a group of 88 Duke professors without any evidence signed their names to a paid advertisement in a Duke school newspaper that read, quote, regardless of the results of the police investigation, what is apparent every day now is the anger and fear of many students who know themselves to be objects of racism and sexism, who see illuminated in this moment's extraordinary spotlight what they live with every day. That was a rush to judgment. And I said it was at the time. Almost everybody smeared and slandered those three Duke lacrosse players, wanted to throw them in jail. It turned out they didn't do it. How many times on this show have you heard me condemn former President Obama that he rushed to judgment in high-profile race cases, all while ignoring massive amounts of violence in his adopted hometown of Chicago? You may remember this.
The Cambridge police acted stupidly. There is a long history in this country of African Americans and Latinos being stopped by law enforcement disproportionately. And that's just a fact. The African American community is also knowledgeable that there is a history of racial disparities in the application of our criminal laws. There's a big chunk of our fellow citizenry that feels as if because of the color of their skin, they are not being treated the same.
The president, a lawyer, from that position, rushed to judgment every single time. And as I pointed out many times in this show, was completely wrong every time. Hands up, don't shoot, turned out to be a lie. Some still regurgitate that lie today. George Zimmerman was found innocent in the Trayvon Martin case by a jury of his peers. And all of the cops in the Freddie Gray case were acquitted. I was right on all these cases. In other words, one of the reasons I have been right and so many of my bratty friends in the media that are overpaid and lazy, like fake Jake Tapper, is they rush to judgment. I don't. Jake, listen to the whole 2 hours of my radio show today. It's one of the reasons we have been more right than wrong. We're not always right. When we're wrong, we'll tell you. We here, right on this program, we didn't say hands up, don't shoot. We waited. We were right on Freddie Gray. We were right on the Cambridge police. Every single person in this country deserves the presumption of innocence with the allegations against Judge Moore. None of us know the truth of what happened 38 years ago. The only people that would know that are the people involved in this incident. Here's another perfect example. Now, when it came, some will say, well, Hannity, when it came to Bill Clinton's sexual misconduct, well, on the one hand, Democrats didn't care. He had the right politics. Hillary called it a vast right-wing conspiracy, never called out her husband. Unlike the left, I actually worked, reported, did my research, and I went and interviewed all of these women. And I looked them in the eyes and interviewed them, let them share their stories. I did my job. They should do theirs in the media. You described a scene where he was biting on your lip, and then when it was all over, he was leaving. Said, you better put some ice on that.
Yeah, and casually put on his sunglasses and walked out the door.
It was a terrible ordeal for me, and no woman should be subjected to it. But it was an assault.
He assaulted you?
Yes.
He touched, grabbed, fondled, and kissed you against your will?
Yes.
And it's an allegation that is not made by one woman, it's made by multiple
Many
women.
of us.
I said, well, I may need to be going or something. And next thing you know, he pulled down he sat down, pulled down his pants, his whole everything, and he was exposed. And I said, I'm not that kind of girl, and I need to be getting back to my desk.
In many of these cases, Democrats, for politics, political reasons, said these women should not be believed. I don't think they ever interviewed them. You might remember James Carville saying, well, you drag a $100 bill through a trailer park in the case of Paula Jones. And look how they treated Monica Lewinsky. That became beyond shameful. And we can't forget the Clinton Foundation. Really? Democrats care so much? On this show, we have been the most outspoken about Hillary taking millions and millions of dollars from countries like Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Kuwait, the UAE, Brunei, Oman, and they have the most horrendous human rights record in terms of how they abuse women, how they kill gays and lesbians just for being who they are, and Christians and Jews. I don't remember anyone else in the media talking about it. In other words, nobody should be pointing fingers and passing judgment. We've got to know the truth. This is an issue that transcends geography, culture, political ideology. Now, sadly, sexual misconduct in America is rampant. That's the truth. Just look at what's happening in Hollywood today. Actor Ben Affleck, he was forced to apologize for grabbing a woman's breast on live television. Dustin Hoffman also apologized after two women accused him of sexual misconduct. They admitted it. Kevin Spacey, accused of sexually abusing multiple young teen boys. He's now in rector. Remember Roman Polanski? Pled guilty to raping a 13-year-old girl after he gave her Quaaludes and booze, and was quoted as saying, quote, afterwards, oh, she's a double victim. He has still escaped from justice. My victim and a victim of the press. And, of course, we all know now about the allegations swirling around Harvey Weinstein, who also checked himself into rehab. And now even comedian Louis C.K., he's been accused tonight of committing multiple acts of lewd conduct by the New York Times. I can't stand Louis C.K., but does he deserve the presumption of innocence? Every American does. We reached out to him tonight for comment. They want to come on the show. The accusers of Judge Moore want to come on the show. They're all welcome here. This brings us back to Roy Moore, Judge Moore. Any accusation of sexual misconduct is beyond deeply disturbing. I say that as a father, as a brother. But every person in this country deserves the right, the presumption of innocence until proven guilty. We should have learned a lot from Duke and a lot from Ferguson and a lot from what happened down in Florida with Trayvon Martin. And we should have learned a lot with the Cambridge police. Should have learned a lot of people. However, some members of Congress, they seem to have forgotten this basic right, including even John McCain. He tweeted, quote, the allegations against Roy Moore are deeply disturbing and disqualifying. The allegations? He should immediately step aside and allow the people of Alabama to elect a candidate they can be proud of. What happened, Senator, to the presumption of innocence? Maybe one thing, what if somebody came out tomorrow, Senator McCain, and said something about you that was false? We don't know. We have to stand up against predatory behavior. But as I said, these are complicated issues, more complicated. And I would just ask every American, learn the lesson that I learned in Atlanta. Learn the lesson that I have now applied to all these cases and why I turn out more often right than wrong than my media friends who always rush to judgment. You're going to make a decision. You can go interview all these people and then make another decision, but base it on your own experience, your fact, your believability of the people you talk to, like I did when I interviewed Juanita Broderick and Kathleen Willey and Paula Jones and many of the other women that accused Bill Clinton. Here with reaction tonight, this important issue. Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett, Fox News correspondent at large Geraldo Rivera, Fox News legal analyst Mercedes Cohen. I got to start with a personal issue with you. Media Matters, which has been on a witch hunt to get me fired, I did almost 2 hours on radio today on this topic. Did I sound any different today than what I sounded like on TV?
Absolutely not. And I lament the fact that people are seizing on what I do believe was you misspoke in one sentence.
One sentence. But do I deserve 2 hours of radio?
The clarity, yes. The clarity of it is, you said that your subject, your person you were interviewing, said, well, it was consensual. This alleged act
I thought
Judge
she was
Moore.
talking about the 18-year-old and the 17-year-old.
Well, regardless, we cleared up right now that you cannot consent if you're underage. It is legally impossible. Okay. You know that.
That one
the
line
entire thrust of your
was wrong.
Of your show was to say how deplorable, if true, these allegations.
That one line was absolutely wrong. I misspoke.
The reaction to you, I think, is symptomatic of a larger situation. We have a tendency to believe what we want to believe and disbelieve what we don't want to believe. The classic example is, of course, Bill Clinton and the Oval Office. We didn't believe the Paula Jones and all the rest of them. We didn't believe Trailer Park Trash and all that. And yet the Trump allegations in the hotel room in Moscow, much more farcical and denied as opposed to proven facts in the Clinton Oval Office. In Moscow, we want to, if you hate Trump, you want to believe that, something bad went down, something, seedy went down.
It's ideological.
And I think that with Roy Moore particularly, I don't like his politics. I don't like his position on gays. I don't like his position on Muslims. I want to believe that this is true about Roy Moore because I don't like Roy Moore. You have to stop yourself, and that's why the brilliance of your commentary. You've got to stop yourself and say, okay, what is it about these cases? What is provable? What is not provable? Is there any corroboration whatsoever? What about the statute of limitations? 38 years. Did she make any contemporaneous statements at the time? Is there did she write a note? Did she have a diary? Did she tell her mom? What happened exactly?
Told her mom 10 years later.
Way. That's why you have statutes of limitation, because witnesses become unreliable, they become more susceptible to influence, etc.
Sexual harassment is real. Sure. There are predators out there. As a father, it scares the crap out of me. It really does. Sure. Are there also times, like in Duke, where people make false allegations?
Oh.
Are there times where people lie for political purposes?
Undoubtedly, Sean. Listen, I've represented hundreds of corporate executives that have been accused of sexual misconduct. And when they get these individuals in the courtroom, when you get them under cross-examination, they fall apart. So all these allegations, they're flexing their muscles, they're lawyered up, they're in there, they're fighting for their rights, they're saying, I've been victimized, this is what happened to me. If they fall apart, because once they are gone
You've
through
done
the
hundreds
due process,
of these cases?
I have.
Have people lied to get money?
Undoubtedly.
Have corporations paid just to make it go away because it's cheaper?
It does, and plus the reputational risk is at hand. The brand is at hand. The brand of the corporations are at hand. So many of these cases, especially now in the climate we're in, everyone's like, well, maybe we have to settle these cases before we even get to the trial, before we even have these complaints filed, because once it's filed, it's like the allegations become suddenly actually occurred, and it's just not true.
You're not a fan of Judge Moore. You said it the other day on this program.
I did, before the primary, actually, that he is unfit to serve in the U.S. Senate because not once but twice he was removed from office for defying federal judicial decisions on constitutional matters, which he is not allowed to do under the Supremacy Clause. Having said that, I am suspicious of this because of the source, the Washington Post, which has a dog in this fight, having endorsed his opponent. The timing of it on the eve of an election. And finally, he was a huge and has been a huge public figure in Alabama the best-known son of Alabama in many ways, and yet none of this came to surface in almost 4 decades. And so that gives me reason to question the credibility of these people. I'm glad you brought up Duke Lacrosse. I covered that case.
I know you did.
3 lives were ruined when Crystal Magnum lied about accusations of rape. She's now behind bars, convicted of murder.
Right. You know, Geraldo,
I didn't know that.
Yes,
You didn't know
killed
that?
her boyfriend.
Stabbed him to
But
death.
you know, can I just say this? This is not. I'm being really sincere. I learned. Richard Jewell woke me up, and when he told me, and I remember the first time I talked to him, he goes, "Thank you," he goes, "Thank you." You were like they were crucifying this guy. They first thought he was a hero. Then he fits the profile of a lone bomber. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution. I think they've since paid a lot of money, like in the Duke Lacrosse case.
Richard Jewell, you know, the problem is you make these assumptions and these presumptions and these proclamations, and they're not proof. All I'm asking, now we have this epidemic of sexual harassment allegations and even rape claims among very well-known people. What has to happen is you need the same standards in this aspect of criminal law as you do with every other crime. There has to be some corroboration. Why not ask for some corroboration? Now, there is a feeding frenzy right now that is extremely distressful to me. Now, I'm not sure that in Mercedes' case that in these hundreds of sex harassment cases that the complaining witnesses fall apart on cross-examination, you know, some of that is good lawyering, some of that is the fact that there is no evidence to back the claim. I just want us to slow down before innocent lives are ruined. Like with Louis C.K.,
yeah,
he is doing exactly in real life what his comedy is. That's why we don't. He does. You know, it's awful. It's horrifying, and yet that's what he. The reason Roy Moore is so delectable to the left is that it's a hypocritical situation where he pretends to be the Bible thumper and really he's got this ugly secret, if true, and I don't know how he disproves it.
Well, that's the point. Once the allegation is made, you know, we're now, what's I think it's December 12th is the election.
It is. And
here we are, November 9th.
I know. The tardiness of this is really suspicious. And, you know, I learned early on trying cases that everybody lies. I hate to say that, but they do.
Oh, no, that's
Witnesses
not true.
lie, parties lie, lawyers lie. I've even seen jurors after the verdict lie about what went on in the deliberation room. And Geraldo knows this. He's nodding his head. Everybody lies. So I believe strongly in the presumption of innocence. And yes, I do think that a lot of accusations of sexual abuse are true out there, but not all of them.
Mercedes?
I don't think that's, and I respect obviously everything you said, Greg, obviously, but it really is challenging in these times. And frankly, these accusations, just like you said, Sean, suddenly they're convictions, they're allegations, there's a due process, there's a due diligence. And it's exactly what you had said, too, when it comes to the corroboration. Who did you speak to? Did you call the authorities? Jurors look for that. They really are. They look for the corroboration. Did you speak to anyone?
She told a couple of friends.
Did you call the police?
No.
Did you write about it? Did you blog about it? Did you text anyone? Especially now, jurors want to see something material that corroborates those allegations.
You're going to stay. Not that we don't love you guys too. Thank you both for being with us, and I appreciate it. And I did make the mistake with that one word. Listen to my whole show, and then you'll get context. CNN is so lazy. It's spectacularly lazy, and they copy the most left-wing radicals every day. Maybe I have a lawsuit. I'll hire you guys later. Sebastian Gorka, also later today.
Around, that's easier.
Hillary Clinton finally reacting to the bombshell claim that she rigged the Democratic primary. We'll tell you what she said as we continue.
Here's the story of Green Mountain Coffee.
We continue to cover the breaking news around Judge Roy Moore, Alabama Senate candidate, and the calls for him to step down from the Alabama Senate race. We're joined now by Fox News national security strategist Sebastian Gorka. We continue also with Mercedes Cohen. Let me just get your general reaction to this. You've been a big supporter of Roy Moore. He's come under tremendous fire this entire race, especially John McCain's comments from a political perspective. Even doesn't matter if it's true, get out of the way. And it seems like every establishment Republican really never liked him, and they don't clearly believe in the presumption of innocence, which should be a little terrifying for every American.
Absolutely, Sean. Look, this is America. We don't call people guilty before the evidence is in. And of course the rhinos are going to use this as an excuse to attack somebody like Judge Roy Moore. But let's put this in context. Number one, what is the environment in which these charges are happening? Look at the last 2 years. Look at the insanity. Look at what we've all had to live through. The outrageous attacks on the president, the attacks on you, the attacks on me. I ignored them. I had friends defend me. You, like the righteous crusader you were, you went back and you crushed those liars. Now we have to find out what's true and what isn't. Is this another smear campaign, or is there something there? And the most important point is, we are not the DNC. This isn't Hillary's war cabinet. We don't cast aspersions on women who accuse men of sexual harassment or impropriety. We listen to them, we find out if they're credible, and if there needs to be something done, legally or otherwise, that's what we do. We don't turn people away and try to destroy them. So let's take a deep breath, count to 10,
November
and find
9th.
out.
The election's December 12th, a month away. All right, let me turn to Mercedes. How many of these cases, this is what, you actually are an expert in this area of law.
Right.
You do this every day.
I do.
What if the average person hears this like every day? Huge, bold allegations. Then you think of Duke Lacrosse, then you think of Richard Jewell, then you think of Hands Up, Don't Shoot, then you think of, the fact that it is real. There are predator jerks out there. How do people know the truth? What are people to think when you got one side saying that, one side saying that?
Well, thank goodness that there is a due process involved. So
not in the press.
Not in the press, but that's why we can't convict people based on what you read. You have to look at a lot of these depositions. You have to look at sworn testimony. You have to be those jurors that get the evidence before them. But to say that some of these allegations are now convictions, it's absolutely outrageous.
What is your success rate? Because I know you're a very successful attorney.
I have tried 52 trials and I've lost 2. That's
52 and you've won 50.
Yes.
And what about all the cases that end up getting settled? How often do people lie? I mean, this is what I'm trying to answer. I don't know the truth. I don't know the answer tonight. I can't say. It seems suspicious because we're a month out of an election. And it's 38 years ago.
You do. But, Sean, look, a lot of people are going to say, it's what we said before, these allegations are so stale. Why is it coming now? Why are we just weeks before this election?
But on the other hand, can't you understand a woman that's traumatized, sees a guy running for Senate, and finally just says, you know what, I'm not going to be silent? I could understand that.
That's that argument, but a lot of jurors say, wait a minute, you're going to wait 30 years to come forward and say that this happened to you? Did you talk to anybody? Did you call
You don't think a jury, if this went before a jury,
right?
Where would it go?
Oh, it depends on the credibility of these accusers. I mean, if they come forward and they seem credible and Judge Moore does not, then obviously there's a tipping balance. But a lot of jurors are going to be very suspicious of these accusers saying we waited decades before coming forward.
You know, Dr. Gorka, I always say every 2 years and 4 years, the Democrats got the same playbook. Republicans, poor Mitt Romney. Remember Mitt Romney? Mitt Romney, I'm kind of annoyed at how he's treated Donald Trump, but Mitt Romney was a good person at heart. I liked him. I think he would have actually been a pretty good president. Mitt Romney had a binder full of women's resumes. Remember how he was treated by the media in this country, the Democrats in this country?
Right.
You know, you look at examples like that, or Herman Cain. I'm friends with Herman Cain. Herman Cain's going up in the polls.
Or Justice Thomas.
Then the day he gets out, nothing. You hear nothing. Because they accomplished their mission, or why?
Look, this is the thing that made Andrew Breitbart a conservative, the accusations against Justice Clarence Thomas. So there's a fact pattern here. There's a very strange propensity of sexual allegations to suddenly become politically useful in the run-up to an election, or when somebody stands up for the principles of the Republic, like Clarence Thomas, and needs to be taken down. So let's just get back to the basics of the Republic. We have to have a presumption of innocence. You have to know who's accusing you. They have to do it publicly, and there has to be evidence. We don't know the facts. The first rule of war is that the initial report from the battlefield is almost always wrong. So let's stop find what the facts are. Is this person credible? Is there any evidence? Because if it isn't, it's a smear.
It is different than Weinstein, who goes to sex rehab. It is different than Dustin Hoffman and Ben Affleck, who apologize. It is different than Kevin Spacey goes. Some people admit it, and some people say no. Now, I know, and this goes back to what you said. Do people do it for money? Do they do it for political reasons? Is that more common than people would think?
Oh, definitely. I mean, they'll do this for
they will lie to make money.
Oh, undoubtedly. I mean, there are individuals that will come forward with these outrageous allegations, and then
that hurts all women that are victims.
Yes, I mean, and that's why I used to work in sex crimes in the DA's office. It was very pitiful to see that, because some jurors don't believe it, because they've in their own lives, there are people that have made these accusations for money. You see this time and time and time again. And sexual harassment, that term is coined everywhere. Frankly, the laws are very clear as to what it takes in order to be a violation of the law. You have to have some sort of damage. And these individuals, a lot of these women, it's all about money, and they bank on the fact that these corporations have
this
the
is where you thread the
reputation that they
needle,
want to
because
save.
there are women that are victims of predators.
Yes, there are.
So hard.
But very few. Far between.
I suspect, the last question, Dr. Gorka, we're running out of time. You think this is politics, or you just don't know?
Too early to say. Let's ignore the press and let's talk about the system. We have to have faith in the system, and it's not about smears, it's about facts, and time will out the truth.
All right, guys, thank you both. Really appreciate it. When we come back, Hillary Clinton finally responding to former DNC chairwoman Donna Brazile and her claim that she rigged the election. Tomi Lahren, Jessica Tarlov, battle it out. Straight ahead.
Mayor's Story on a must-see English.
And welcome back to Hannity. Hillary Clinton is finally responding to the bombshell allegations made by Donna Brazile and the DNC and the Clinton campaign that they colluded to actually rig the 2016 Democratic primary. Like, by the way, the fake news media, they were colluding with her. The fix was in. Take a look.
The DNC had a bad couple of weeks. Donna Brazile wrote a book. I know she's a longtime colleague of yours. And she sort of, in her book, made this comment that your campaign, through an agreement, had too much influence to maybe at the detriment of the Sanders campaign. She sort of walked back those comments now.
Yeah.
What was your reaction to that?
I didn't know what she was referring to, because, as has now come out, that just wasn't the case.
Nah, they just signed a private agreement, and Bernie Sanders didn't have the agreement, and she was in charge of hiring and the money and everything else. It was, and Donna Brazile said it was rigged. Here was reaction. Fox News contributors Tomi Lahren and Jessica Tarlov. Why are you laughing? She said
because what Donna Brazile said is so laughable. That's why I was laughing.
So Donna Brazile is a liar.
Donna Brazile made it seem as though the 2015 joint fundraising agreement was actually what the 2016 joint fundraising agreement said. Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton signed the same agreement.
Glenn Greenwald wrote an article that says that is one of the biggest lies, that Bernie signed the same thing. That's not true.
No, it is absolutely true. Look at it. And then he went out and raised $0 for Democrats, and Hillary raised hundreds of millions of dollars.
What you're saying is Donna Brazile is a liar. That's what you're saying.
That's what it looks like.
When she said it was rigged.
Well, rigged, first of all, how do you rig 4 million votes?
And she said she called Bernie Sanders and it broke her heart.
Yeah, well, I mean, you read that excerpt where she had to light a candle and put on the mood music to call Bernie Sanders.
Well, I don't think I'd want to tell somebody that they never had a shot, that there was a joint agreement.
He didn't have a shot because he didn't appeal
what about
to
Hillary,
Democratic
What about Hillary
voters?
Controlling the hiring and the finances of the DNC? And not Bernie.
But she did after she was the nominee, which is the right of every nominee.
Before they were
But it was the 2016 agreement, not the 2015 agreement.
Is there anything? I honestly believe, Tomi Lahren, that I swear, if the Clintons are on national TV and they put a gun at someone's head for no reason at all and shoot somebody, the left in this country would defend it.
Well, look at Donna Brazile. It's not true.
You know, and I want to ask Jessica. I want to ask you a question. What do you think the leftist mainstream media would say about Sean or myself if we called Donna Brazile a liar? What would they call us? They would call us sexist and they would call us racist. But because you're a Democrat, you can say Donna Brazile is a liar to protect Hillary's butt. Now, what world do we live in?
Oh, well, I don't think that the leftist media right now, if you read what they're writing about, lots of them were Hillary defenders, and lots of them are making exactly the same argument that I am right now. So I don't think they would call you racist, and I don't think they would call you sexist. Listen, the liberal media likes me more than they like you. That's for sure. But it's not because of anything
That's so
inaccurate
mean
about
of them. Tommy, I'm sure your feelings
I
are
really
hurt.
like you, Tommy, and I like you, Sean. But I'm just saying,
Tommy, the left-wing media doesn't like you. Shocking.
Oh, no. Oh, boy, add it to the list. That's okay. If the leftist mainstream media doesn't like me, I take that as a victory. I'm sure you do as well, Sean.
Yeah, all right. But the bottom line is, I look at a lot of things. I see that James Comey writes an exoneration of Hillary Clinton, and I look at that and I say, wow, the fix was in. He did it before he even did his investigation. I see Bill Clinton meeting with Loretta Lynch on the tarmac, and I'm thinking the fix is in. And then I see that Hillary Clinton, although she denied it for a year, that she had paid for this phony Russian dossier full of salacious lies about Donald Trump. And now, oh yeah, but it was only research, op research. When she paid for it and denied it, why do you constantly defend people that are known liars, continually lying?
well, are you willing to admit that Donald Trump is a liar?
No,
then we can play
tell
here.
me on what?
Okay, how about he was against the Iraq War from the start?
Actually, I know from
first
firsthand experience because I used to fight with him on the phone about it.
What about what he said on Howard Stern? That was invented?
He said that too. Listen, one of the things that Donald Trump he shouldn't have done is gone on Howard Stern. If you want to be president, don't go on Howard Stern's
well,
show.
I don't think he knew.
No, but the point is, I know firsthand experience. He was talking about taking the oil back in the day because I talked to him about it. Firsthand experience.
Okay, and I mean, he went out there when.
But that doesn't. But you answered my question. Why the Clintons? Wasn't the fix-in when Comey wrote the exoneration before he did his work?
Well,
isn't that fix-in?
Well, there are analysts who say that first of all, there are 3 people who could have changed the language there with the Comey letter. I said I'm happy for the.
But he's writing an exoneration before he did his work or interviewed the people
I have
involved.
said that I have no problem with an investigation into what happened in the FBI.
Do you have a problem her funding the Russians when she lied and said she wasn't
funding
responsible?
Opposition research or meeting with Kremlin officials. Don Jr. is saying, hey, come on down, let's have a chat.
Well, excuse me, Fusion GPS that she was paying, we now learned hang on, we just learned this week that they met with the Russian lawyer before and after Hillary was paying them. Tommy Lahren, get him.
Here's my question for Jessica, and it's an honest, sincere question. Do you trust Hillary Clinton? Not anybody else, not analysts, you. Do you trust Hillary Clinton?
With what? Honesty. Is she an honest person?
I do actually think that she is an honest person. I think there obviously, when you have been in public service for 25 years, 30 years, there are certainly things that I have called her out on and said that it's just wrong, the way she waffled with the email scandal. I even called her out about what happened during Benghazi and the Benghazi scandal after that. But I do not think that Hillary Clinton knew what was going on with the Russian dossier. If you want to talk to Mark Elias, to her lawyer, you can do that. If you want to question why there weren't FEC filings, you can do that.
Tommy Lahren.
This woman has been lying for decades, and the Democratic Party continues to shield her. You can keep doing it if you want. It's only going to help us in 2020. So keep shielding Hillary Clinton, keep bubble wrapping her. It's hurting you, not me.
I mean, no. I just disagree with you. Shielding her, the woman lost the presidency twice. She's not running for public office ever again. She's mostly in the woods or at her house.
You don't think there's anything wrong with her? What turns out she paid for phony Russian information that was used as Hillary Clinton's campaign.
You think Hillary Clinton
said
go out
DNC.
and do this?
Excuse me. Who knows what she knew? Nobody knows. She paid $10 million. Nobody knows anything.
Her campaign did. Go talk to her
She's her campaign.
Lawyer. She's not. I mean, how many decisions are... Well, fine, then Donald Trump knew everything that happened with the Russians.
I got to roll.
Okay.
Good to see you.
Nice to see you, too.
When we come back, I have a powerful message for all you weak, spineless Republicans in Washington. Mini monologues next. All right, welcome back to Hannity. Now, it has been a year and a day since Donald Trump's historic win in the 2016 presidential race. Then candidate Donald Trump, he swept states that long have eluded the Republican Party. It passed like Wisconsin and Michigan and Pennsylvania as he helped the Republican Party win hundreds of down-ballot races all across America. Without a doubt, Republicans, they were propelled to victory because of very key promises that they made to you, the American people, over and over again on the campaign trail by President Trump and also the Republicans themselves. 2010, remember? Republicans got the House, repeal, replace Obamacare. 2014, they got the Senate, same reason. 2016, they got it all. Give us the House, the Senate, and the White House, and we'll do this. Well, now it's time for Republicans in Congress, especially you lazy people on vacation in the Senate all the time, get your act together. You've got to make good on these promises. Now, you didn't pass repeal and replace? Okay, now you've got the tax bill. You either get this done or get out of the way and make room for more effective legislators. That's tonight's mini monologue. Now, last night in our monologue, we gave you a retrospective on just why President Trump was able to pull off a historic victory in last year's presidential race. In case you missed it, well, I called in a Fox News on election night to detail what the 2016 election was all about. Take you down memory lane.
To me, this was predictable, but on the other hand, this is a modern-day political miracle you're witnessing before your eyes right now. And that is to go up against everybody and all the pundits and all the pollsters and all the prognosticators out there and defy all the odds. And it's the American people that have said enough is enough. They're tired of the corruption, the cesspool, draining the swamp. All of these things were resonating. You know, when you look at a state like Wisconsin, what are they saying? They want their jobs back. They want the labor participation rate to be lower. In other words, more people having jobs. They want America to be energy independent. They're tired of a horrible educational system. They're tired of Obamacare rates going through the roof. This is not complicated. What's happening now is not working. And these guys, and Donald Trump has gone out there and he outworked Hillary Clinton and he put forward a much better agenda. And America said enough is enough with failed policies. That's what this election was about.
All right, in November of 2016, the failed policies of President Obama were actively hurting this country. Remember, economic growth was anemic, health care premiums, they went through the roof in spite of all the promises. Illegal immigration was impacting this country. Taxes just too high. On January 20th, President Trump was sworn into office and immediately started the process to keep his promises and fix these problems. But while the president has been moving at what I call the speed of Trump, Congress, Republicans, they've been dragging their feet. The repeal and replace of Obamacare died in the United States Senate. Funding for the border wall, postponed some of it. And now the Senate is planning to fundamentally alter President Trump's tax proposal. We learned earlier today the Senate plan will delay the best part of it, the corporate tax cut, until 2019? Really? Now, by the way, there are 300 bills that the House has passed. The Senate hasn't even picked up. There are nominees to the president's government that haven't even been confirmed at this point. If you're a member of Congress, and let's say you're watching this from your second home in the D.C. swamp, in the D.C. sewer, I want you to listen very closely. I do have a message for you spineless Republicans. If this delay goes to 2019, it will be rightly interpreted by the American people as a failure of you doing your job on a spectacular level. These tax cuts are crucial to American businesses. These tax cuts are crucial to getting good paying jobs from overseas, the repatriation money, spurring the economy, hopefully for decades to come. So it's time for senators like Mitch McConnell, John McCain, the others in the Senate, stop lecturing us, the American people. It's time to get to work. I know you say the expectations have been too high. If this tax plan gets put off to 2019, you water this down, this failure will be on you. If the Republican Party gets trounced a year from now in the midterms, it won't be President Trump's fault, not going to be my fault, not going to be talk radio's fault, not going to be the Fox News Channel's fault. It's going to be your fault because you didn't have the courage, the vision, the backbone, the spine, the identity, the courage to put everything on the line for the people you're supposed to serve, the great people of this country, the forgotten men and women of this country, who this last election was all about. These are the people I've spoke about for the past year, on food stamps, out of the labor force, in poverty. They're suffering. They don't have time to wait to 2019. Those that are having trouble buying their first home. Those are the people you're supposed to serve. You're supposed to be public servants. 1 year from now, if you lose your majority in the House, Senate, most specifically the Senate, you'll have nobody to blame but yourself. And you will all pay the price, and you'll have your colleagues pay the price at the polls next year, a year from now, it'll be your fault. Wake up or go home. That's my message. Best Sean, TikTok. We'll continue. All right, unfortunately, we're running out of time. I have some great news. Our movie, Let There Be Light, which has just taken the country by storm, is now adding even more theaters this weekend. Thank you so much for your positive response. Bring tissues if you go. You can find all the new locations at Hannity.com. And I did this movie because I'm sick of the formulaic violence, sex, and, let's see, cartoon characters that Hollywood gives us. Thank you for being with us. Our friend Laura Ingram. Hi.
I have a question. I have a question.
You didn't see my movie, did you?
I'm going to see it. Gosh, you're so much pressure on me. I'm going to see it. Sean, I have a question. When are you going to star in the movie? And you should be the superhero.
See, if you would have taken the time and spent the $15, now I'm sending you a free copy, you would have known I'm in the movie. But thank God I only played myself, which is fairly easy to do, and it's only a small snippet. But I hope you'll go see it. I think you'll like it. I think you're going to like it. What did you say? I didn't hear what you said. What?
We're all looking forward to it, and I'm glad I hear you have a popcorn machine at your house too. The director's chair, the popcorn machine. You're so fancy, Hannity. You used to be a Long Island kid.
What's
now
the
you're
name
a movie
of that
director.
guy? What's his name? Popcorn.
Exactly.
Orville popcorn. That's what I put that in the microwave like everybody else in America. No special popcorn
Hannity.
machine.
All
but
right,
that's a
stop
good
beating
idea.
up my time.
Sorry.
Thanks, Sean.
Have a great show.
I appreciate it. And good evening from Washington. Another Hollywood bombshell. The comedian Louis C.K. has been accused by 5 women of sexual misconduct. The allegations were reported by the New York Times, and now the distributor of his new film, Daddy, I Love You, has abruptly canceled the premiere due to unexpected circumstances. Well, they may be unexpected to his distributor, but for those of us familiar with Louis C.K.'s career, it was totally expected. As with Harvey Weinstein, there were whispers in the media about C.K.'s sexual misdeeds for years. Remember his stand-up routine and tweets about Sarah Palin and her special needs child in 2010? With misogynistic glee, he ridiculed Palin's body parts and her, quote, and I hate reading this, but this is what he said, retard baby. To give you some insight into the depravity of Louis C.K.'s mind, this is one of the cleaner tweets I can read. He said, people think that Sarah Palin is really mean, but she has a family of Chinese poor people living in her hole. Sorry, it got even more vile from there. I can't read anymore. Despite knowing all of this sordid and sick comments Louis had made about Sarah Palin, Jay McMichael, the 2012 chair of the Radio and Television Correspondents Association, invited him to headline the group's dinner. It's this hoity-toity deal in Washington. He defended his decision to invite the comedian, telling Politico, it gives the dinner a bit of an edge. It shakes it up a little, which is what we wanted to do. One of our goals was to make it not so stuffy an evening. Louis C.K. fit the bill when it came to that. Yeah, he fit the bill all right. Greta Van Susteren, then at this network, boycotted the dinner, and she correctly called him out. She called out Louis and called him a pig. Greta wrote on her blog, I refuse to show any support for this guy, and I think the organization that hired him is just as bad as he is. It's no secret that he denigrates women. Within days, Louis dropped out of